We are amazing because our passion is limitless and our drive is intense. Therefore, you will not deny our grind. You are now listening to the Faith, Grind, and Inspire podcast.
Hey, welcome back to another great episode of Faith, Grind, Inspire podcast. I am your host, Gene Alert, and we're live every Wednesday. And this week, we have a special guest, one of my good friends, and we actually met at Queens Library.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it was at a library.
It was at a library, and the library was putting together some of their heavy hitters and trying to work out some things to bring more activity to the library. Mm-hmm. And they had us in this room, and we were brainstorming. And I'm glad that we connected, and
absolutely,
and we're here now, right?
Yes.
So, my man Michael Ducille. Right, so the 1% mindset.
The 1%,
right?
Mindset.
So it's cool because I love the name of your business, and I love your brand because this show is all about the mindset of entrepreneurs, right? And so we've always had people come in, they tell their stories, good, bad, indifferent, and they talk about their process, they talk about their story, and but a lot of times, no one really wants to talk about the other parts. You know what I mean? And so we had a conversation. You were like, I want to come on. I want to talk about the other side. And I was like, let's do it. So, Mike, let's start off. Let's talk about where you're from. Like, tell us who you are.
Absolutely. Originally born in Brooklyn, New York. I was here till about 13 years old. And, I was the statistic to divorce, right? My parents got divorced, and we went to Florida. Me and my mom went to Florida, my sister, and we were there for a little bit. And I think during that piece, and I didn't really understand it at the time, but when you grow up with both parents originally, and then one is kind of taken away, or you don't have that figure, especially that father figure, you kind of have to grow up fast. So for a while, I became the man of the house without really understanding how to be the man of the house. Typically when you grow up, like you said, and you're a part of typically a single family home. When you grow up with your mom, you kind of learn certain things. I was always so reliant on both, right? Mom said, no, sure, let me ask dad, right? Kind of playing that game. So when they divorced, it took me back a little. Again, at the time I didn't understand, but what I did know is I had to learn a lot of things that I didn't know and kind of grow up pretty quickly. Fast forward, go to college in Florida. Then I said, it's time for me to come back to New York, right? So came back up to New York and kind of started my journey in New York from there.
Now let's go back, right? How do you think? Because being the man of the household without knowing how to really be the man of the household, how do you think, or what did you learn during that process?
It's like a survival instinct, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you go back to like cavemen, right?
Yeah.
You study them. They had to figure out how to survive, whether that's going and hunting and eating food, or creating a fire to stay warm. It's a survival mechanism that you kind of develop. And I think when I became that man of the household, and my mom was working multiple jobs at the time, and you didn't really, I didn't grow up in poverty, so to speak, or I didn't struggle, or I didn't feel like I struggled at all growing up when I had both parents. So to kind of see that other side, I guess it was, I had to learn it through survival instincts, right? Just figuring things out, finding mentorship where I could, or just learning on the go.
Were you the oldest child? Or?
I was.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Well, I am. My sister's still, alive and well. So
yeah.
Yes, I am the oldest.
Yeah. So now, how did you feel any anger growing up, or did you like going to school?
That's a good question. Again, me being the 30-plus-year-old me now is a little different. Back then, I was, right, and I didn't know I was. Mm-hmm. I was angry because I saw my mom hurt. Right?
Yeah.
I saw her cry, things that I wasn't used to seeing before. So for a while, I didn't speak to my dad, right? And not to say it's no one's right or wrong in the situation. At the end of the day, they did what's best for both of them, and I completely respect and love both of them for that. But at the time, I didn't understand it.
Right? At the time, you're like, I'm with mom, So that means dad is the enemy.
Exactly, right? And that's what
Mom
it was.
is crying, dad's the enemy. I get it.
Yeah.
You know, and did that affect your schoolwork?
It did. I was always pretty good in school.
Before, while you guys were in New York.
So when the divorce was finalized, that was my freshman year in high school. First time ever, I got my first D, right? First time ever. Got in trouble, right? Of course, because there was no excuse, but that was, I think it was geometry. I believe it was geometry. Got my first bad grade ever. But I quickly turned things around. You know, I ended up graduating high school with like a 3.8 GPA. So, you know, I ended up turning things around. But at the time, I didn't know how to process it. So I processed it through just not caring, not paying attention, you know, stuff like that. Things that I used to cope with at the time. And again, I didn't understand. You know, I mentioned I didn't understand it because it's real, right? A lot of people go through stuff and they don't really understand what's happening, especially at a young age. And they just find mechanisms and ways to try to cope with what they're going through.
Exactly.
And that was, you know, my way of doing it.
That's deep, man. Thank you for your openness, man. And so you went to college. When did this entrepreneur bug hit you? Bite you?
College, right? So it's funny. I was always the laughing stock in college amongst my friends because I always try to find these ways to like make money. I remember whether it was through network marketing or these get rich quick schemes, I always try to find a way to facilitate making money without going to work. At the time, you know, back in like it was 2006, 2007, I was working like $7 an hour, $8 an hour. And I was like, yo, this is a bad life, right? I knew I was like, yo, this is a bad life. So the first thing I did, I remember in college it was called this gifting program, right? And what you had to do was send money to someone. And then, you know, once you send money to that person, then you get approved and people send money to you. It was this whole little scheme really, right? But again, my mentality was I got to figure out ways to make money. So I was just trying different things with the gifting program, with network marketing, with trying to create something and sell it. So I think I've always had that bug in me. Even in high school, I sold candy, right? We didn't have any vending machines. So in high school, you know, my mom would buy me a box from BJ's and I would, you know, sell them in class and make my profit and flip it. So I've always had that bug in me. But I never had necessarily guidance or structure for me to really make that happen. So it's always kind of been in me.
Nice. I love it. So what was your like first like real business?
So my first real business where I made significant money. Well, when I say significant is relative, right? So first real business where I made residual income like month after month was a network marketing company. And at that time, this was my like no, I lied. Before that I sold life insurance, right? So imagine me 22 years old, maybe at the time, no facial hair.
This is in Florida.
This is in Florida. This is my senior year of college. And I'm going to someone who's 45, 50 years old, telling them the importance of life insurance and, you know, telling them to find their why and what happens if they pass away. And they're looking at me like, you know, what do you know about it, right? Because I look like their kid. So, but I was able to close a couple deals. And that was the first taste I had of like money, you know, close this deal. And I saw that, right? It was a lot of cold calling, a lot of hustle. But that was the first time I saw money quickly doing my own thing. Then fast forward, I hopped into network marketing and I found I was with this company that's actually no longer in business, but within this company, obviously, you know, the kind of pyramid thing behind it. I personally recruited like 25 plus people into my organization, which is unheard of in network marketing, really just speaking to them and finding their passion and their why. And that's when I realized I had a gift of speaking, a gift of gab. And for multiple months, I made residual money every single month, you know, close to $1,000 every single month, just kind of doing that, you know, on the side of what I was doing. So that was kind of the first thing that I did as far as that made money on my own. Nice,
man. So you were doing that and the insurance at the same time?
No, I did the insurance.
You left the insurance?
Yeah, I left the insurance.
Why?
Mentorship, sustainability, passion. I think I I realize when you do things, if you're doing it strictly for money, it wears off, right? It goes away. And I was selling insurance, and it was just a money ploy for me, right? I just wanted to make money, and yeah, I was happy I was helping people, but I didn't love it. I didn't love it. And because I didn't love it, when you have a certain amount of bad days or bad weeks, then you start to question if it's even worth it, right? And that's what I started to question it.
That's real.
So after I questioned it, I took a step back. I sold it again for a little, and I was like, nah, I don't want to do this anymore. I got tired of making calls, people canceling appointments, and because my passion wasn't there, I eventually went on to the next shiny thing, right? This shiny ball syndrome where you find the next best thing, and that's kind of what happened to me.
We talked about that a couple of episodes back, where you plant a seed here, you water it a little, and you just pick it up and you move it somewhere else, and it doesn't give it the time to actually grow, right? But you said something interesting. If you're not passionate about something, you can't, and you won't let it grow. You see what I'm saying? Because it's like two things. It's patience and passion. You know what I mean? Like, but you have to have patience. You have to have passion first, then to have the patience. If you don't have passion in the area that you're in, you won't be able to have the patience, because everything is going to be like, everything's going to annoy you.
Exactly.
You know? So it's important when you hear people talk about, find your passion. What are you passionate about? People who made it, people who found their passion already, it's easy for them to say that. But sometimes when your mind is cloudy and you can't focus, you don't know. So like you just said, your mind, you looked at the next shiny thing. So the next shiny thing was this network marketing thing, and they were just like, yo, bring as many people. If you bring people, you're like, okay, I'll bring 25. Like, and you brought 25, you started making 1,000 and a month, right? Residual, without doing nothing, because your team was doing it. What made you leave that and not grow that?
Well, one, that company ended up going out of business.
Oh, went out of business.
Yeah, ended up going out of business.
That's a good reason.
Yeah, but I had other opportunities to get back into network marketing, and I attribute network marketing to a lot of my growth because it forces you to get better. You want to become a leader in network marketing or in anything, you have to really focus on personal development and self-development, and it helped me do that. But what I realized after that business went out, or after that company went out of business, I said to myself, I need to put effort and time into my own thing. I need to grow my own brand, because at the end of the day, things will live and die off of what I do, right? Yep. So if I'm dependent on this network marketing company to grow, like I'll never be the success I want to be, right? I want things to stand behind my name. I want things to stand behind my brand. And once I have that, and that brand is exemplified, then I can do just about anything, whether that's books, shirts. Like, I can grow what I want to grow once my brand has power behind it. And that's why I decided I didn't want to give my power, my talents to a company. I wanted to give it to myself. And I thought that was what was important.
That's dope. So now, this is all in Florida.
This, the network marketing was after I moved back. So insurance,
Okay.
So insurance,
Florida.
It was Florida, and then I kind of transitioned over to, I moved back to New York, and then I started diving into and looking at a couple things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now, when you transitioned back to New York, you got into network marketing. The company folded. Then what? So
the company folded, and I was being heavily recruited to a bunch of other companies. And at the time, I got to a place where I just didn't want to do, like, I went into one, and I realized, like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to bring people into the company. So I was in a place of stuck, right? I was working a job that I didn't absolutely love at the time. And I was in a place of stuck. So I found a mentor for me, right? And he was what I wanted to be as far as the grind, the hustle, how he conducted himself. So I found a mentor. And I think that's what kind of changed the trajectory of where I was. Like, I always felt like I had the mindset, but I didn't have any guidance, right? Everything that I did, I kind of learned on my own, whether it's through study, through other people, through books, whatever that looked like. And once I found this mentor, I was kind of guided in certain directions. I was pushed to do things that I'd be uncomfortable doing, and that's when I eventually started to grow.
Okay. So what business did you get into after?
So I started a web development company.
Okay.
And, you know, I'll tell a little secret. I actually put this in a course that I created, but when my back was against the wall and I needed some money, I left my job at the time because, you know, my boss, we didn't see eye to eye, right? So I said, I'm going to go on a freelance website. It's called Upwork. And Upwork is very popular now, but back in like 2015, it wasn't as popular. And it was mostly people overseas that were using it, as far as people who were looking for work, and the people in the US were finding people to do these things. So I said, you know, let me start a web development company because the margins will be great. So people would go on, say for example, you said, hey, I'm looking for someone to create a website for me. There'll be a bunch of people applying, and there were mostly people overseas in like India and, you know, just in Asia and stuff like that. And I said, how can I be different? So what I would do is I would do video pitches, right? I would get on the computer and I would record myself, and I'd say, hey, this is Mike from Ignite Media Group. That was the name of the company that I still have, actually, by the way. And, you know, I know you're looking for a website. Here's what's special about me. Number one, I'm US based. You'll have access to my cell phone. I'll show them my cell phone. You will, you know, you can reach me at any time. You don't have to worry about language barrier or time zone difference. And then I would kind of go through what they want on their site and tell them why I'm the guy to do it. And they'll say, wow, that's impressive. I never got a video. And they would hire me. And what I would do is I would go back to the same people that applied to their job and hire those people to do that work. And from there, I became a great middleman, right? I started building this company. I was getting 2 to 3 clients a month doing it. And again, no guidance, no really business like acumen at the time. Mm-hmm. I did it for a year straight but then I eventually burned out because I had no kind of contingency plan. I wasn't building anymore. Like once the work was done, it was done, and I'd have to do it again. And I was doing like 100 pitches, like video pitches a month, and I burnt out. And that was the business I first started when I was in New York. So I had that going, and then, you know, I found the mentor, like I said, and he said, "Yo, what are you good at?" And I said, "Yo, I don't know. Like I did this Upwork thing, but I don't want to do it anymore." He was like, "Well, you need to do it and figure out what you're good at." And because of network marketing previously, I was reading, right? Because in order for me to successfully lead a group, I knew I had to be a leader. So I would host these book club calls. We would read a book a month. And one day in December of 2016, they didn't read. They didn't read the book like how they were supposed to. And we met every week. And I said to them, I'm asking you, like, in order for you to get better and to do better, you have to consistently get better. And you have to read. I said, I'm asking you for 1%. Well, before I said that, I said, let me look at it. So I calculated, and I said, there's 720 hours in a 30-day month. 720 hours. I said, it may take you 6 to 7 hours to read an entire book, give or take. So I'm asking for 1% of your month, not 1% of your day, not 1% of your week, 1% of your month. You can't tell me you can't take 1% of your month and do better. And when I said that, like, I heard like silence on, like, you could hear a pin drop. They felt me. And at the time I had about 6, 7, 8 people at the time listening on the call, and I heard nothing. And I was like, oh, they felt that. So they got, the next week they were good. So that next month, I hit my mentor up. He had a camera. I said, yo, I want to drop a video because I think this is powerful. Did the same video, basically same premise. I'm asking for 1% of your month, not your day, not your week, to do better, to get better. I was animated. I was going in. I was passionate because I was speaking from truth, right? And when you speak from truth, it makes it a lot easier. And that video changed everything, right? It did like over 4,000 views in like 2 or 3 days, had 50 plus shares from someone who I had no following, no nothing. All of a sudden I go on Facebook and I have 50 plus shares, tons of comments like, yo, I'm feeling this. That was passion. I was like, whoa. And then my mentor at the time, he was like, yo, that's it. Like, start doing videos. And from there, every week in 2017, for the most part, I dropped a video every week. And that's what kind of became me being a speaker, right? Just speaking into the camera, speaking truth and being authentic about it. So everything that I was speaking about, I was speaking from real life. Like that 1% thing came, like what I'm good at is taking analogies and bringing them into real life where people can feel it. And that first video was me speaking from my truth and what was there for me. And, you know, after I started doing those videos, that's kind of what started and what projected it. And then, you may go into that, but later down the line, that's how the 1% mindset, you know, that company came.
I was going to talk about it. Like, so you have a sweatshirt that says the 1%, it's a mindset, right? And so you started a business from this.
Yes. Yeah. So January 1st video, I was doing videos for a long time after that November 2017, the person I was mentoring with at the time, his name is Anthony, good dude. He said, let's see who's rocking with you, right? Who's rocking with you? Come up with a shirt. And at the time I was like, all right, what is this supposed to say on there? He was like, I don't know. And I thought about it, and I went back to my first video. And I was like, the 1%. The 1%. It's a mindset, right? Like that's the mindset you need. I believe everything starts from the shoulders up before it starts from the shoulders down, right? And you know, no matter what kind of success you have, no matter what, you know, what position you're in, you're going to go through trials and tribulations, but you know, the success starts from the shoulders up. And I was like, the 1%, it's a mindset. And that's what I threw on the shirt. I had a designer develop, you know, created, and I put it on shirts, and then I put it out, and I was there. He's like, yo, make calls, see who supports you. Made calls, sent out texts, sold maybe like 50 in like 24 hours. Okay. Right? And, you know, no paid promotions, no nothing, just sold them. And it was, you know, it made me realize like, yo, people actually rock with me. Like they feel the brand, they're feeling me, they're feeling these videos, because if you didn't support someone, you wouldn't buy their shirt, right? But they felt the message. Yeah. And because they felt the message, they showed their support. And I mean, I think that was the first thing. Now, with that being said, I don't want to make it seem like it was peaches and cream, right? So I didn't know anything about the t-shirt business at the time. I just knew I wanted shirts. So I had a boy, and this is where the first piece comes in, and had a boy who sold shirts in the past. So I reached out to him. I said, hey, I got a design. I have some shirts that I'm looking to make. Can you do them? He was like, yeah, I'll give you a good deal on them, et cetera, et cetera. Quickly not throwing him under the bus, but it ended up being a bad deal, right? So I sent him the money through Venmo, and for, say, the first batch was like 25 shirts, right? So I sent him however much money it was. I was going to make, you know, maybe like between $8 to $10, right? Give or take profit on my end. Sent it to him, sent him the money. He goes ghost. He has the money already, he goes ghost. People are like, hey, where's the shirts? He doesn't give me any tracking numbers, nothing. I hit him back. You know, this was my boy, right? So I trusted him. I hit him back. No, he hits me back days later. Oh, sorry, I was sick, you know, but I'm getting ready to send out the shirts, da-da-da. So he sends them out. And then he says to me, you know, I charge you really low on the shipping, but you know, it's all right. And maybe next batch you can fix it. So I said, you know what? How much do I owe you? So I sent him more money to cover the what I thought was shipping costs, which again, wasn't. So the first batch gets the shirt. So the second batch, I was like, you know what? Just, you know, be real with me again. Second batch, he sends it. Second batch, the same thing happens. This time, he goes for 2 weeks. I have people ask me for the shirts. What's happening? I don't know. So what I do, because I don't know who got their shirt, I have no shipping numbers, no shipping information, I reorder them under my watch. So any profits that I made, I had to reorder for the second batch and send them out, right? So, you know, this money that I thought I was going to make, you know, going into the holidays, I was like, it was wiped out. I made nothing. Like, I actually probably had a loss selling that. And through that and realizing that and looking at that, I realized that he overcharged me for shipping. He overcharged me for shirts. You know, somebody that I thought was my boy and that, you know, I was ultimately giving him business to, it didn't happen. And, you know, that was the first time I learned. I said, man, you can't really trust everyone, especially within business. I sent it to him through Venmo, so it's not like I could call hit up Venmo and like, hey, he screwed me, because Venmo is just it's a cash sharing app, right? So you're not supposed to conduct business on it. If I want to do it, I could have did it through PayPal, but I know PayPal takes out fees, but that's how you protect yourself, and I didn't do that, so I end up losing that money completely, and ultimately lost the friendship, which is fine. It obviously wasn't a solid friendship to begin with, but that literally that was the first hiccup in business, right? Not the only one, but that was the first time where I said to myself, man, at the end of the day, the customers are first. They trusted me to pay me, right? Although I got screwed, I can't lose the trust of all these people who believed in me because of one person. And although I lost, my bigger goal was people. So that's how it was founded. But even with the success of what I thought were the shirts and selling all these shirts, it wasn't even a win for me. I lost, right? Like, as far as money, I lost. And through that loss, I learned. Obviously I changed up my shipping stuff. Like, I still sell shirts, not as much, but that would have been a really big win for me, a pretty good money day, just because of how frequently, how quick it happened.
Now, let me ask you a question, right? Because there's a few things, when you think of that, right? Sometimes, and this is with customers too, sometimes the least expensive way, the deal, the cheap way, because it's cheap, the word, and you go with that option, right? And you end up always, majority of times, having to do it over. Because that's the winging it move. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell people all the time, like, yeah, you could buy this for, 500 cards for $10. Yeah, you could do that. But every time you get out your card, it's like, it's going to crumble. It's going to rip up. It's really cheap, and it's really bad. When you invest little money, there's a reason why it costs little money.
Yeah.
When you buy things from China or you buy things from overseas and the quality isn't as good, right? There's a reason why they're selling it for that price, right? And there's another thing called due diligence, right? So your boy sells shirts, or he makes shirts. First thing I would have told you is, where does he print the shirts from? His house? Does he have a warehouse? Does he print somewhere? Does he outsource the shirts? Like, I'm not...
No.
But I'm just saying, these are the questions
yeah.
I would have asked, But you would have never known that because you trusted him. And you like, this is my friend, so let me give the opportunity, right? Because he's not looking... He didn't value your friendship to that level where... Because he could have been like, yo, bro, I'm sick. You know what? I'm going to Venmo this money back to you. Figure it out. That you would have been mad, but you guys would have been friends still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? But because he didn't care that, you know what? I don't care about the 50 people who ordered shirts from him. I'm sick. I got to take care of me. Majority of people in this world operate on a selfish mentality. It's me first, then you, right? Entrepreneurs, good entrepreneurs, operate on a selfless mentality, where it's you first, then me. You know what I mean? And that mentality sometimes gets you in trouble, because you do put yourself first and you become a martyr. And then when you kill yourself, people will say, well, I didn't ask you to do that. Oh, if there was a problem with the shipping, you could have just texted me and let me know. And being honest with customers too. Like, you were just trying to speed up because you were trying to be Superman. I've been there. Trying to be Superman for the customer to give them that shirt that they ordered. And you might have put a disclosure on your website, shipping in 3 days, shipping in 5 days or less. Now it's like, damn, it's not 5 days, it's 10. So instead of emailing them and telling them, hey, because you don't want to look like you just, you failed them. So that's something else too, man. Like being honest with them and just being transparent, because it takes that weight off of you, bro. You know what I mean? So even though your boy was, he did something wrong, at the same time, you were just trying to still fix it.
Yeah.
But lesson learned.
Yeah.
But going forward, it's always good to know, like, people have print shops. People could have, like, there was a situation I had with some hats. People, they were rushing. They didn't want to spend a lot of money. They wanted cheap quality hats. So we got cheap quality hats. They wanted, they wanted a certain thing. They got it. When they got it, they were like, oh, no, we don't like it. So I'm like, you know what? Give me back the hats and put up some extra money and we'll replace it. That was it. And it worked out. Before, I would have been heartbroken. I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know what to say. But because I understand, be honest, be truthful. Mm-hmm. If you don't respect it, then it's whatever. But at least I'm not going to. In business, you want to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
You want to be able to sleep at night. You want to be able to know that you did everything that you possibly could to make sure that people who support your business, people who support what you're doing, and it works. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, do right, do good. You know what I mean? Always do right. This will gratify some and astonish the rest. You know what I mean? If you have that mentality in business, no matter how much you struggle, bro, like it will turn around. You know what I mean? So now, all right. So going past that, now we're in 2018, right? And we sat down and you were like, yeah, I want to write a book. And I actually saw you write this book. Now, everybody wants to write a book. I've never seen, I can't say I've never seen, but I've seen people write books quickly, but you turned that book over, you went on complete focus and you wrote this book, right? What's the book called?
The book is called The 1% Mindset, Survive and Thrive in the Face of Adversity.
Okay. So now let's talk about being an author, like the real author experience. How was it writing the book, first of all?
So I've always said to myself that I'm not a writer. I never write a book, and I have a book. So all things being equal, it was tough at first, right? And I think in order for me to I started it in the summertime, and I kind of wrote, I stopped, I kind of wrote, I kind of stopped. But for me to actually finish the book, for it to be clear, I really had to get laser focused on, and that was by setting hard deadlines. What was easy, I don't want to say easy, but what was simple was telling truth, right? I was very authentic with all my situations. I was authentic with the fact that I had cancer and I had to beat that. I was authentic with the situation that happened that I just told you about with the shirts. I was authentic with my relationship with my parents. I was extremely authentic because I know that I'm not unique to any one situation, right? Mm-hmm. Not everyone, but people's had cancer. People's dealt with divorce. People's dealt with getting screwed. People, my situation isn't unique, but I know that some people just aren't willing to share their story, or they're embarrassed to share their story. So I decided that it's important for me to share the story, but not only share, but really find that way on how I got over it or what I did to kind of get past it, right? Mm-hmm. And that I said to myself, I want to have this book out by this time. At the time, I wanted to be out by like December 3rd or something like that, because I wanted to present my book with. I went to a conference with Eric Thomas, ETD hip hop preacher, and a guy by the name of Inky Johnson, mm-hmm. were two phenomenal speakers, and I wanted to present my book to Inky Johnson. Mm-hmm. So I said I need to have it done at least a week and a half to 2 weeks before this conference. I can print it, I can get it proofread, I can make sure everything is done. Long story short, it didn't happen. But I finished it before December 3rd, before I went to that conference, but I didn't finish it in enough time for it to get proofread and printed. Right? So Was it disappointment? Yes, but what I did do was I realized that when you're so locked into something, you would move mountains to make it happen, right? I always said I'm not a speaker, I'm not a, or I'm not a reader, I'm not a writer, I'm not this, I'm not that, and I set limitations on myself. And for this book, I said, you know what? In order for me to get to the next step or to make it happen, I got to sit down and plug away and write this book. So I did if you combine all the time minus the procrastination, it was done in a few weeks.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was done in a few weeks.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
Yeah.
You came to my office a couple of times to write.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy is focused, man. I see him. But okay, so you put out the book, right? So how's it going?
The book is doing well. It's on Amazon right now, and I had some bumps to this as well, right?
Okay.
You gotta love the journey of entrepreneurship. So I released the first book. So there's 2 versions, right?
Okay.
The first version I decided to put it on 6x9, at least a size book. So it's a little bit bigger than like. 6x9 is a standard, but there's like a smaller version, 5x8. Yeah. So I put the 6x9 on, and when I got it, I was like, it feels too big, right?
Yeah.
So
especially if it's a thin book.
Exactly, right? It was about 25,000 words. So it ended up being about like 100 pages or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't like it. So I added some pictures to the book. I didn't have any pictures. I added some pictures, relevant pictures, of course, not just, relevant pictures to the story that made sense. And I slimmed the book down to 5x8. I unpublished it on Amazon and I republished the 5x8 one because they wouldn't let me like change the size. Comes out now you search on Amazon. Now there's 2 books, right? There's a 6x9 version, which is the one that's not updated, and then a 5x8. So I'm emailing Amazon to this day, actually, and say, hey, I want to remove this 6x9 one. It's the same title, like it's just not updated. They said, okay, yeah, don't worry about it. I said, okay. And Amazon now, for sellers, they don't have any phone support. It's only email support, so I have to wait via email. So as of like maybe a week or so ago, the 6x9 version, the unedited version, was on Amazon, and then the one that I wanted people to buy was underneath it. But same book, same title, and I'm like, really? Email Amazon. So now they switch it, but they still haven't taken it off. People are buying the older version, so I had to like resend them like updated versions. It was madness, but it makes for a good story, right? Because so many people think that, when you do like being an author, like I got praised, like, yo, if congratulations, you all in 2008 I dropped the motivational album, which did very well. I did like 1,000 streams in like the first like 2-3 days. It was thank you for my audience. Dropped a book. I did so many different things. I had some speaking engagements, but I still felt unfulfilled, right? I felt in a sense that people thought more of me than I actually was. Right? I was at a place where I almost felt like a fraud, kind of, right? And not because I wasn't on Instagram flashing anything or doing anything extra, but so many people saw things in me that I necessarily didn't see myself. And not that I had low self-esteem, like I believed in me, but they thought a lot higher than me than I thought of myself. I was in a place of stuck, so to speak. And I found myself, and I think I felt like that because I set certain goals, right? And whether that's monetary, whether that's a certain number of this, like I didn't hit those goals. But what people saw was just the fact that I got it done, right? And I think because I was in that place, I just never felt fulfilled. And I had to figure out how can I feel fulfilled if I'm not hitting certain goals? Like, to me, say if I'm gonna do something, like I always try to do it. Now, once I do it, like how are you going to market it? How are you gonna sell it? How are you, like, whatever that looks like for you? And I think that place that I was in, and I think that I still teeter in, day in and day out, comes just from a place of not feeling enough. Excuse me. And when you don't feel it, it's a space that I think everyone gets to at some point, right? It doesn't matter the income or the money, because there's rich people who, Mac Miller committed suicide last year. There was a couple people committed suicide, and they can have all the money in the world, but where's your fulfillment, coming from? Like what drives you, what moves you? And if it's, for some people it can be money at certain times, but if you don't find that fulfillment, that space that makes you happy, then you're always going to have doubt, and nothing is ever going to be enough. And that's the place that I was in, right? Yeah. It was, it's not enough. Yes, I did it. So what? Anybody can do it, right? I'm not the only one that's written a book or came out with a motivational album or, had a speaking engagement. Like, I'm not the only one. But for me, I was like, well, I didn't sell enough. I didn't make enough. I didn't, I just never had that fulfillment point. So just finding my fulfillment point has been key for me, for at least the mental health side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yo, that's deep, man. Thanks for your transparency, bro. Like, a lot of people don't want to share like that part. It's all about, I wrote a book. Yep, I'm doing great. Woohoo! Like, Yeah. So, but just like you said, I'm not selling enough. I'm not,
making enough.
I'm not making enough. I like we spoke. I got booked for a speaking engagement, and then the speaking engagement gets canceled. Yeah, right. And so. That happened to you twice.
Yeah, twice. I had 2 speaking engagements in February for a good amount of money, both of them, and they both got canceled. And I was counting my dollars before I received it, right? And I think that's something that we fall into.
That's another mistake.
Yeah, I've at least I'll speak for me, right? That's something I've fallen into more than once. Mm-hmm. Right? You get excited about it.
A lot of people do that, man.
Yeah,
and that's. Mentorship again. I had a gentleman, Rob Flower, that was around me, and he would always tell us as sales, because in real estate you make a lot of money. So the deals are not, you close a website and it's not, like you making $1,000. You close one deal for the month, you're making 10,000, 15,000. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So of course you're 20, 19, 21, like you're young. And you're spending this money in your head.
Yeah.
Like, yo, once I get it, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. And those guys in my office that would never close a deal, because every time they started spending the money in their mind, what they're going to do, and they took their eye off the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And they never leverage. So that's something too, man, because like when you start spending money that you didn't get or didn't close yet, you get comfortable. It's a place of complacency, right? That's what really happens. You're like, oh, I'm good. I got 2 speaking engagements. I'm not gonna look for no more. You know what I mean? Oh, I got 2 clients. Oh, I'm not gonna look for no more. And then all of a sudden, when those 2 clients leave, or those speaking engagements leave, or they don't, they didn't sell enough tickets to pay you.
Mm-hmm.
So now, guess what? You're by yourself, and you're alone, right? What you have to keep doing, and this is for everybody listening, you have to just keep going after the deals, or keep going after and keep growing your business, keep working on it.
Absolutely.
Without expecting it until it goes into the bank. You know what I mean? Because even when it goes into the bank, even in real estate, people in mortgage business, right? People could refinance their home, go to the closing table, and 3 days, they have up to 3 days after to rescind. You understand what that means?
Yeah. So, yeah.
You're at the closing table. You spent an hour, 2 hours signing papers, and you're just like high-fiving, taking pictures with the person. Like you probably gave them a bottle of champagne or whatever it is that they thank you. And all of a sudden, on the 3rd day, 23rd hour, they call their attorney and say, I changed my mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's tough.
So you're tough. You get sick.
Yeah.
Because once you get to the closing, you're like, oh, this is good. They had a good feeling. You walk out and you start all right, cool, I'm gonna buy this, I'm gonna buy that, I'm gonna buy this. If you have a credit card, you start buying stuff on credit card because you're thinking you're gonna pay it at the end of the month. That happens to people. You know what I mean? So my advice is, don't do that. You know, I know it's hard.
Yeah.
But you have to have discipline, and you have to live within below your means, man. You know what I mean? Until it's at that place where, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying not to buy nice things. You know what I mean? Like, we all did it. I did it. You know, I lost money, made money. I look at money as just, it's not something I worship. I don't worship it. I get it. I lose it. I make more. I lose it. You know, I spend it. I invest it. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you just have to be smart with it. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to be smart, and you have to understand, as an entrepreneur, you're not getting a check every 2 weeks. Like, a deal is not coming every week.
Yeah.
You have to balance yourself. You have to put yourself in a place where you're just where you're disciplined. You have to you control the money.
Absolutely.
The money can't control you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You have to understand that, bro. You know what I mean? Like, you control the money. So you don't let the money control you. Don't spend the money before you get it. Don't let it do that to you. You know what I mean? Because then that's what's going to make you go out of control, like, where it's like, damn. And you start questioning things. Am I doing this the right way? Am I doing this? Because when something gets taken from you, especially when you were expecting it, now all of a sudden you start questioning it.
Yeah. You know, and I don't even think it, yes, money's huge as far as that happens. I mean, like I said, for me, like, I had 2 speaking gigs, and, you know, they got canceled, and, you know, that was out of my control. I think self-doubt hits entrepreneurs a lot when, not, yes, the money thing, but just when you're told no, it always does something to you, regardless if that's money. You know, hey, can I have, you know, some water? No, like, it does something to you, right? Like, regardless. And I think really understanding that if you utilize no as not right now, it makes things better. But you're human, right? It's tough. No matter what you're gonna go through something. Yeah, like I always say, you're not immune to heartbreak. You're not immune to loss. You're not immune to these things. So how do you figure out a way to make it that whatever happens to you is just an event? Like, it's just there, and you don't create a story behind it, right? So in my head, when I first lost that speaking engagement, in my head I was like, oh, I can't believe she did that, or, you know, I should have done this, and, you know, I created all these stories behind it. And what is actually there is I just lost the speaking gig, right? Now you move forward to, like, what's next, rather than dwell on what's happening in your life or in that situation at the current moment. And that's when you start to question things. And in order for you to create or live the life that you so choose, you have to take events as what they are. It's just an event. It's just an event. It's just something that just happened, and you figure out how to move forward. And as I started to realize that, it allowed me to really start to push or shift things and put things into perspective for what it is, right? And, you know, now and again, saying that is not saying, you know, you're not going to feel pain, or you're not going to be hurt, or you're not going to, like, that's what's there. Clearly, yeah. But it's just, how do you move forward from it? We tend to look at life backwards, right? So if you're moving forward, when you're trying to move forward in life, if you're bringing everything from behind you, like, yo, she doesn't like me, but whatever, like, you know, then it's hard for you to really move forward. And when you're moving forward, anything in the past needs to stay behind you in the past.
It's the past. Yeah,
exactly, right? And it's just hard because we tend to bring all of these things in the past in front of us and try to guide our ship forward.
It slows you down, man.
Yeah, it's hard to drive the car looking behind, right? Yeah. So that's when that hit me. That's when I said to myself, I said, okay, you know, I gotta change it up a little bit. I gotta do something a little different, because if I continue to look at things from behind, I'm never going to move forward. And I think that's kind of what shifted things, you know, for me, and kind of helped move things forward, because it truly is, you know, I'm sitting here saying, you know, the 1% is a mindset. You're gonna go through trials and tribulations, but, you know, there's a reason mentors have mentors, right? There's a reason, you know, consultants have consultants. There's a reason, because there's always a point that, you know, you're trying to push forward, you're trying to move forward, and there's there's something that's not there. And as long as you have the right people to kind of guide you and to help you, it makes things, that much easier. So.
Very true. Very, very true, man. How do you balance like your business and relationships?
It's a good question. I think having someone supportive is important, right? I've lost relationships, because of it. And I think that what I know is that if you don't have someone who supports you through it, then it's not going to work, right? The best, the current relationship that I'm in is amazing. And what she does really well is she supports, right? Even when I'm not looking, she's there. I have your back. You can make it. And I think that's important. It's a lonely venture being an entrepreneur, right? There's, you don't have coworkers. Hey, hang out. It's when you got to focus in, you got to hone in on what it is that you want. And it's a lonely venture. And when it's lonely, you tend to you got to go into isolation mode, so to speak, right? You got to isolate yourself from the world and what other people are doing in order to stay completely focused on what it is you want and have clarity. And you can't have if you don't have clarity, you can't visualize what it is you want because you're not even clear on it. So in order to get clear, you have to kind of take away the outside noise and be in isolation, and that's skipping things and whatever that looks like. So as far as the balance, someone who's understanding, yes, you need to take time for your spouse, your significant other, whoever you're with, but they have to understand that, hey, this is a journey that I'm on, and I do plan on seeing better times, but if you follow me on this journey, I promise that the end result will outweigh all of the negativity that it may seem like we're going through currently at this time.
Yeah, I love that, man. Let me ask you a question. Like, how do you come from, do you find yourself now where you understand like what your purpose is, and so, or are you going to like did you find your thing yet?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Did I find my thing? No, I'd say no. And the reason I'll say no is because I think I'm still evolving, right? And I think it's so funny when you're growing and you're getting into a space, you go all in on something, and if it doesn't work, you're able to kind of shift. A good example. So we know Jeff Bezos as, he's now probably the richest man in the world. I believe he kind of took that over and he created Amazon. But let's put things into perspective. So he wanted to create a phone, right? And for those who don't know, the phone, it was a bust, right? He wanted to compete with the iPhone. The phone was a bust. It didn't work. But he spent all that time into that and all that investment. What he did is he shifted that focus and used the same technology for the phone to create Alexa. And now Alexa is one of the biggest things, right, that's there. So as far as finding your purpose, you can be successful and still not know, or still go in multiple directions, even though you go all in on one thing. And for me, that's how I feel. Like, I feel like, I've gone all in on multiple different things, and I've had to continuously shift to find that one thing, right? Because that one thing can be huge. And, when I read that story about Jeff Bezos and really the creation of Alexa, because there was a bust, his Amazon phone didn't work out. I said to myself, I was like, that makes sense, right? You got to continue. If you got to go all in on something. If you wait to find a purpose, to find a passion, you'll never find it. It's intentionality over mechanism, right? If you have an intention, you figure out how to do it later on. I forgot who said it. I believe it was the guy that owns Virgin. The guys that owns Virgin.
Sir Richard Branson.
Yes. I was having a blank. He said, if a good opportunity comes, say yes and figure out how to do it afterwards. Right? Intentions versus mechanism. And if you can become intentional about what it is that you want, then the mechanics will follow afterwards. So have I found that thing yet? No, but I'm going to be very intentional on what I think that is. And the mechanics will follow afterwards. And if I need to have a shift after, I will. But I have to just be real intentional on what I think that thing is.
Got it. Okay. One last question. So the show's called Faith, Grind, Inspire, right? Which one of the 3 words resonate for you? Like really sits with you, and why?
I mean, they're all really, really powerful, right? I think for a year plus, I created videos to inspire and to motivate people. I didn't make a dime from it. I actually lost money paying, the video guy, the producer, the mentor. But the whole purpose that for me to do it was because I used to get people that reached out to me like, yo, you're my unofficial mentor. That resonated with me. That meant a lot. I love that. So I think inspire probably means the most to me, because Zig Ziglar once said, find a way to serve the many. Service to many leads to greatness, right? And when you're able to serve people, I think that's the biggest reward that you can have is service to people. And if your service is inspiring them, then that's what you should do. You should inspire them. And that's the only thing that I've done. Well, not the only thing, but that's one of the things that I've done that I never had like money on my mind behind it, right? I just did it. It was a service to people. Everything I told you, the network marketing, all these other things, I was like, yo, how can I make money? The insurance. But when I started doing those motivational videos, there was no money attached to it at any point. But because of that, I created a shirt and people felt it, so they bought it. I was able to get speaking engagements, but it was all because my main purpose was to inspire people. So inspire is probably the biggest thing for me.
All right. I appreciate that, man. That's a great answer. Thank you, man. And that's your truth. And thank you so much for coming on and being so open and sharing your story with our listeners. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in to another great episode of Faith, Grind, Inspire podcast. I am your host, Gene Alert. And, I want to thank my producers, Tim, Jamie, and Brianna, for always helping us out. Thank you to all our listeners on OG Podcast Network, Apple, Google Play, wherever you listen, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever. And our YouTube fans, right? We're building that up. So I need you guys to continue to share, repost. Thank you to all our peoples. If you know anybody, if you have any questions, contact us. Podcast at faithgrindinspire.com. Peace.
Yeah. Also, really quick, sorry. Also
okay.
like to thank all the people. I did an IG live, so I'd like to thank all the people that showed up here. A ton of people showed up, showed love. And just, thank you as well for giving me the opportunity to speak truth. I think a lot of times people sugarcoat and aren't real for a lot of things. So, really understanding that life happens, right? Crap happens, so what? In case my mom's listening. And so whatever you're going through, just know that you're not alone. You're not unique to problem situations or circumstances. So don't let your circumstances determine, how you view things. So thank you guys.
So thank you, man. All right. So Faith, Grind, Inspire. Continue to inspire, continue to grind, and always have faith in what you do. God bless. Peace.